And welcome into Press Box Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, along with my usual Monday night cohorts, Ross Grimsley, the old left-hander. Ross, how are you?
Everything's great, Stan. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. And Luke Jackson, our managing editor of Press Box and baseball aficionado. How are you this evening, Luke?
Just really looking forward to talking to Andy.
All right. And that Andy is Andy Dolich, and we're going to talk to him in about 15 seconds. I first got to tell you about AJ Michaels. Expert and award-winning AJ Michaels heating, AC, plumbing, and home performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. A lot of viewers who watch my Zooms know Andy Dolich. He's been an executive for, I guess, is it fair to say, Andy, 40 plus years, or we're not saying?
Do the math. What's 1971 and 2023?
Man, that's 50 years. That's over 50 years.
Fitty, as they say.
Fitty. He's been an executive in all four major sports. He was at one time the business manager in charge of all sales and revenue coming in to the Oakland A's. He's lived in the Bay Area forever. He and Dave Newhouse have a quickly selling book. I won't call it a bestseller yet, but it's called Goodbye Oakland. Andy, the timing of this book, I know it came out about 6 weeks ago. How did you know, how were you prescient enough to know the timing was right to come on and say, Goodbye Oakland?
Well, first and foremost, it's always great to be on a show and follow AJ Michaels, a great baseball professional in Ross Grimsley, one of the fiercest rebounders in NBA history, Luke Jackson, and a guy who's just a fan.
Yeah,
Stan, just a guy who's a fan and bought somebody else's stuff to put on his wall. How did we look in a crystal ball? We really didn't. We started going back, Dave Newhouse, 30 years sports columnist for the Oakland Trib when there was an Oakland Tribune, and said nobody's really told the story of how a city that had three incredible teams, the Raiders, the Warriors, and the A's, 10 championships, multiple Hall of Famers, some of the wackiest owners in all of pro sports, and a city that really loves its teams and has the grittiness of, may I say, Baltimore, Maryland, right? You have Baltimore and Washington, and everybody goes, oh, Washington, yes, Baltimore. And San Francisco and Oakland. I think there's tons of similarities, as we've talked about in the past. And ironically, the book came out on April 11th, and 7 days later, John Fisher announces, we've got our property in Las Vegas. We have a binding agreement. And everybody's heads exploded in Oakland. Then 3 weeks later, he went, maybe not. We don't have a binding agreement anymore. We got a new piece of land. So we've gone from Red Rocks to Tropicana. We've gone from 50 acres to 9. And each and every day when I wake up, I just smile because John Fisher and Dave Cabell, the team president, are part of one of the finest book sales operations to Goodbye Oakland, and we don't have to pay them a penny.
Let me just ask you one question. I know Luke's dying to ask you some questions. Is it over for Oakland? Is the fact that they were so public about Vegas mean that the attempts to keep the team in Oakland are dashed?
Absolutely, positively not. You know, I'm a cockeyed optimist, hardly ever, maybe never, as a Brooklyn-born, cynical, sarcastic, blah, blah, blah. But the latest in Las Vegas is, again, they're in 9 acres. They're asking for $400 million from the state legislature, which meets for another 2 weeks, and they haven't provided a legal document. And you can't just say, hey, Stan, I need 400 large. Can you just write me a check and get it to me? And What they keep leaving out is they're going to have to play in a convertible dome stadium. Now, when Ross jumps in, I want to ask him this question. He's a Major League Baseball pitcher. He's going to play for 4 years in Las Vegas in the Aviators AAA ballpark, where Ken Korak, the A's announcer, comes, and our starting pitcher today is Ross Grimsley. The temperature at first pitch is 116 degrees, but it feels like 122. I think Ross is going to call the Players Association and go, excuse me, I don't think this is good for my health or anybody else's. So that convertible dome stadium has an all-in value of about $1.5 billion as of today. So let's just say that the Nevada legislature gives them 400 million. I'm not a brilliant mathematician, but if you subtract 400 million from 1.5 billion, oops, you got 1.1 billion that you still have to pay, and John Fisher ain't paying that. So I do think there are a number, seriously, of significant hurdles. Dave Kaval has already come out and said, we're going to sell out every game in Las Vegas. What universe is he living in? It's not the NFL where you're coming from Minnesota, Buffalo, or Boston for one game. Let's just say it's the A's at 10-38 playing whoever else sucks in Major League Baseball now on a midweek series games. How many people are going to be there? Not many. So I don't think it's a done deal. You've heard me say this ad nauseum. The Coliseum location is where they should be. Howard Terminal is Terminal, the place near the Port of Oakland. So, you know, this has only been going on for 211 years. So I think it's going to continue for a while.
Luke and then Ross. Go ahead, Luke.
So Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, came out, about a couple weeks ago, once this Las Vegas stuff started to trickle out, that the A's had, at least it seemed, purchased land. And he basically blamed Mark Fisher and the A's for the Raiders having to leave Oakland because he said that they did not allow to make upgrades to the Coliseum. And Mark Davis said what you just said, that the Coliseum is a fine site for a ballpark, and that's where the A's should. Right. So I know the Coliseum itself, if they stay in Oakland, obviously has to be replaced sooner rather than later.
Sooner.
Yeah. Is there anything irredeemable about the Coliseum site that they couldn't just build on that land?
There is nothing irredeemable. It could be turned into a magical place, just as the Giants built on a crummy location X number of years ago and built Pac Bell Park or Oracle Park. Then somebody goes, hey, I got an idea. It's called Camden Yards. Anybody think that will work? I don't know. Yeah, it worked pretty well. The Coliseum it is centrally located in Northern California or the Bay Area. John Fisher has owned the team for 18 years. He's self-inflicted this circumstance where they're 10-38. Nobody goes to the games. He's invited Pete the Possum into the press box. And even Pete the Possum believes that it could be the place to be. But you don't trade Chapman, Olsen, Minaya. You don't let Bob Melvin walk. You don't let the great players that he had go to a point where they're not a Major League Baseball team. So could they play at the Coliseum? Yes, we'll have to wait and see what ultimately happens. John Fisher has said a multiple amount of times, I ain't selling.
Ross, you got something?
Yeah, Andy, tell me, I mean, if this is not a done deal, what the people that want to move the team or is talking about move, what do they have to do, or what does Oakland have to do to keep the ball club in Oakland?
Well, ironically, Ross, a number of people are talking about that right now, and I happen to be lucky enough. You've played on some great teams, and you probably played on some not so great. What makes quality? Teamwork, leadership, and trust. and not BSing about it, but living it every day of your life, especially during a Major League Baseball season, which goes on, and then the next season. So Oakland has lost that. They do not have a leader. They do not have an elected official like Mayor Schaefer or others, that Willie Brown, who helped build the Giants ballpark in San Francisco. So until a leader emerges, Ross, they told Dave Stewart to go away. How do you tell Dave Stewart to leave Oakland? And he went to Nashville, and he's leading the effort in Nashville to get an expansion team. This is an owner that doesn't care. Even Shotzi Schott cared about the team, even though her dog was pooping on Riverfront Stadium. She cared. And John Fisher doesn't. He's looking at this as a net asset play. And he believes that if he can get a deal done in Vegas, his original $180 million purchase price 18 years ago will turn into a $3 billion valued franchise. Well, we'll see.
I think that's the mindset of a lot of ownerships in baseball today. And it comes from the leader of the pack who tries to run the whole show. I really believe that.
Well, if you're the unnamed leader of the pack, Commissioner Rob Manfred, if that's who you were referring to, or someone else, but I would say, with all due respect to the commissioner, he is not a marketer. He is a transactional attorney, and he's looking at all of these circumstances as a transaction. He's an employee. He works for 30 owners. I would want to be paid $12.5 million a year. Did you max out at that, Ross? Were you?
Oh, yeah.
So he
money.
Yeah, he's making these decisions. And the one that I don't get, Ross, is that if you're going to expand, and Rob Manfred has talked very publicly about expanding by 2 additional cities after Tampa and Oakland get their stadiums built or started. Well, if I'm looking at North America, wouldn't Las Vegas be one of those 2 markets? And now he's taken that off the table, and he's letting the A's relocate. Originally, it was supposed to be 500 million relo. That's off the table.
Yeah, it's now 0 relo, right?
0 relo, not easy to say quickly. And if I'm going to expand, 1 and 2, if the A's go to Vegas, my 2 leading cities for North American expansion, Mexico City and Oakland.
Okay.
Bingo.
Luke, you've got another one, and then I'll wrap it up.
Just one more.
Hold up, Andy. Do you have the book handy? Do you have the book handy?
No, I don't know that I have the book handy, but you go to Amazon.com or any other leading booksellers or a bookseller near you and look at this beautiful cover of Oakland, Goodbye Oakland, and hopefully we'll lead the effort to say hello A's, not all 3. 3 strikes and you're out. That would be horrible. So here it is. And you can read the reviews, most of which I wrote myself under assumed names, which are pretty good. And, you know, Stan, I'm glad you asked for it, because this is not just about Oakland. We're the Seattle Supersonics.
It's about Brooklyn. It's about
and Baltimore and Cleveland and on and on. There are 20 U.S. cities. Hey, those Brooklyn Dodgers, they're doing great in Brooklyn, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Those New York Giants, are they in the pennant race? I don't think so. And on and on and on. So this book talks about what I mentioned to Ross. If you don't have teamwork, leadership, and trust amongst elected officials, the league and ownership, all you're doing is screwing the fans.
Luke?
I got one more for you. So you mentioned that Fisher has had plans for about a 50-acre lot and a 9-acre lot. Now, a 9-acre lot would be enough for a ballpark, and that's it. And
right.
A 50-acre lot would be room for a ballpark and hotels and shops and all that good stuff. What is his ultimate goal in Vegas? I imagine his ultimate goal is to get the ballpark and the other stuff too. I would think, right?
He's not very talkative, is he, Andy?
Well, not talkative would be somewhat of an understatement. Owning the team for 18 years, and this is factual, he has never once been interviewed in depth by the media. He has never once addressed the A's fan base in person over 18 years. And ironically, Luke, the Aviators ballpark in Summerlin, which is about a 25-minute ride from the Strip, who owns that ballpark? It's called Las Vegas Ballpark, but the Howard Hughes Corporation. There would be a greater opportunity of having Howard Hughes live in the body of Leonardo DiCaprio than having John Fisher explain what he's doing. And one, I'm glad you brought it up, Luke, the Coliseum property, which is the Oakland Coliseum property where the team currently plays or tries to play, is 155 acres, both housing the ballpark and the arena where the Warriors used to play. And the A's have made a deal to own 50% of that several years ago so they could build on that to help pay for Howard Terminal. So you've gone from 75 acres to 54 acres to 52 acres to 9 acres. Maybe they'll play on a cruise ship and play in different ports in Northern California. Insane.
The book is called Goodbye Oakland, and as Andy says, it's available through Amazon, and order it. It's a good read, I can guarantee you. Andy, before we go, what do you think the next move will come in this seemingly never-ending chess game? Will it come from the powers that be in Oakland? Will it come from Governor Newsom? What will happen?
First and foremost, this amount of money that they're asking from the state legislature in Nevada has to come to some head. Right. So they're either going to get it or not get it. If they get it, they're going to have a pool party and jump up and down and say, well, that's it. We're great. We're going to build a ballpark. Where's the other billion coming from? If that gets negated and they can't get it restarted, then possibly they come back to Oakland. Mayor Sheng Tao, the new mayor, has said, well, if you come back here with a broken bat, we'll talk to you. She didn't exactly say that, but she said, we'll talk to you. I've always felt that if John gets his number, whatever that number is, 3 billion, 2.8 billion, sell the team and let somebody who wants it, who wants to rebuild a once great franchise back in Oakland. That's what the dream would be. But Oakland is bereft of leadership right now, and it's looking for somebody to step forward and say, enough of this. This team should stay here. There's no reason for it to move. You're going to leave the 6th largest demo in the United States for the 40th. You're going to leave a market that helped produce Frank Robinson, Dave Stewart, Ricky Henderson, Vada Pinson, Kurt Flood, Joe Morgan, Shooty Babbitt, on and on and on.
John Miller.
Yeah, and tell me the greatest African-American baseball player from Las Vegas, or a great
Bryce Harper, but he's not African-American.
Okay, so right. I just think I would hope that the commissioner would use the best interests of baseball and say, Mr. Fisher, you are not exhibiting the best interests of baseball when we are seeing less than 1,000 people at a Major League Baseball game. That is just absolutely horrible.
Andy, we'll stop back in with you in a couple weeks to a month and see how things are progressing out there.
Stan, right? I will only come back if Ross and Luke are here. If not, then we'll have to just
You wouldn't do it with Gary. You wouldn't do it with Gary and Marty Conway and I.
Oh, I would, as long as you're not a part of it. Yes, I would do it.
Right. Thank you, my friend. All right.
See you guys.
We are going to take a timeout, and I'm going to tell folks about the Costas Inn, and Andy's going to sign off and disappear. And then Luke and Ross and I are going to kick around the Baltimore Orioles, who just swept the Toronto Blue Jays. But first, let me tell you about the Costas Inn. Again, it's that time of year, mid-May, where a lot of you haven't had your first crabs of the season. You're imagining them, you're salivating for them. Well, you got to do something. You got to call the Costas Inn, 410-477-1975, and make it like a little planned vacation to go eat crabs, your first crabs of 2023 at the Costas Inn. But you got to be smart and have a game plan. 4100 North Point Boulevard, only been there longer than the A's have been in Oakland, 52 years. And that's the Costas Inn. Now we'll get back to talking sports. And guys, first thing, and this is not meant to be a commercial for the Aberdeen Ironbirds, but I got an email from the Ironbirds, and it was like a promotional email, like, come see Jackson Holiday. We're playing the Jersey Shore team on Tuesday the 23rd through Sunday the 28th, and see Jackson Holiday before he's gone. Ross, it doesn't sound like they're intending to keep Mr. Holiday too long at Aberdeen.
It sounds like it, doesn't it? Hopefully, they don't move him too quick. I mean, there's not a big hurry here, and there seems to be a logjam in the organization with a lot of guys. So you don't want to move too quick, but the way they've been doing things, it'll work whatever they do.
Yeah. Luke, your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw Jackson about 10 days ago or so. Super polished for his age. I don't know if I've seen a 19-year-old at Aberdeen look that advanced. I just saw him for a game, but the swing is as advertised. He seems the whole package seems as advertised. I'm looking forward to seeing him again, hopefully this week.
All right. They play Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7:05. Wednesday is a single admission doubleheader that starts at 5:00. Gates open at 4:00 for that game on Wednesday. And then Sunday, they start at 2:05, gates open at 1 p.m. They won't be back in Aberdeen till June 6th through the 18th, when they play 2 6-game series against Asheville and the Brooklyn Cyclones. All right. So there's a little heads up for baseball fans. Ross, Orioles went into Toronto and they really took care of business.
Clean house.
Yeah.
No, that was, one of the things that's really, and I don't get to see a lot of the games here, but I get to listen to them. I check them out on the computer, play by play and what have you. And we were out playing golf the other day. They were playing, and we had the telephones were looking and stuff, and they were getting beat. And I'm going toward the last couple innings, and I'm going, guys, they've been coming back all year. They're going to win, and sure as hell they did. And it's getting to be, just an every game occurrence that you just expect as a fan, and you just expect them to win now, and you expect them to win, and now you got to understand that they. When it happens, you're on a team that wins and that does that, comes back. They expect to do it now.
Yeah.
And when they don't do it, which happens occasionally, they expect to win the next night, and they usually do. So this is the sign of really, a pretty high caliber team, for a young group. So they're learning how to win. They're getting used to it. They start to believe in themselves. The pitching has been really, really good. The starters are given a few more innings at times, which they got to have to keep the bullpen. We saw what happened last year with their bullpen. And in baseball, what has happened to a lot of teams, their bullpen gets wore out because their starters can't give them a rest and give them any innings. So, yeah, it has been so far, it's been an outstanding thing. I think a lot of people are still waiting for them to fall on their face.
No question about it.
But, and they're going to play, I think, the Yankees coming up. I think they're going to play Tampa Bay again. This is a test for them, but every time they've had a test, they've stepped up and they've done a pretty good job.
Well, first they've got the Yankees for 3, then Texas comes in for 3,
right.
then Cleveland. Luke?
Yeah, just echoing Ross's sentiments. I thought those were two of the best wins of the season over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday, and in particular on Sunday. I thought that was a culture win, is what I'll call it, because you didn't have Cano, you didn't have Batista, you managed to still go 11 innings because it seems like every game they play is a tight one. I think the largest margin of defeat or victory for them is 6 runs this year, and so they play a lot of tight games. And you managed to win that game on Sunday without your 2 top dogs in the bullpen. Really, your top 3 dogs in the bullpen, because Baker was down too. So I thought that was a culture win. And I just want to give kudos to Brandon Hyde, because I think that's something that he's instilled in terms of sort of the all-in mentality of everyone pulling on the same rope in that Sunday game. Everyone who was available to pitch or play contributed in some way. Right down to the very end, Taron Vavra comes off the bench, gets a big hit to put some distance between the Orioles and the Jays. And then Bauman on fumes. That was like his 5th in 9 days or whatever it was, closes the game down. So I thought that was a culture win for Brandon Hyde and the boys.
And they got a guy that doesn't fit who you'd think Mike Elias would want on his team, but Ryan O'Hearn just keeps getting big hits, and that's a neat veteran bat that they have to come off the bench or DH once in a while. Sure beats Kyle Stowers right now, doesn't it, Luke?
Yeah, and I think you made the point to me. We were texting after the game on Saturday that a veteran left-handed bat like Ryan O'Hearn is a lot more useful to Brandon Hyde right now than a young kid like Kyle Stowers, who's still figuring it out. And you just made the point that, O'Hearn has been around the block a time or two at this point, and he just seems to give Hyde a professional at bat whenever he calls upon him. And I do think that's a useful piece for Brandon right now.
Ross, the bullpen is the only way out of this catch-22 of they're very good, but he's having to use them so much. He's getting more length out of starters, because I see opportunities. And I understand certain starters like Grayson, you really want to be careful, even in May, not to get him out in front of that innings projection they have for him. But like the other night, I thought that was a perfect game. They were up 4-1, and Kyle Gibson doesn't come out for the 8th inning. He gave you 7. But boy, that would have been nice to have saved that one arm an extra day for Saturday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but hey, getting 7 innings out of anybody now is a big thing. And it comes down in, when you got your, basically, I hate to, your second line bullpen guys stepping up and doing and giving the horses and your late inning guys that you use when you're ahead by a run or two. When those other guys can step up and do the job, now you got something going. I mean, that isn't, and then you got some of your extra guys knowing what their job is, and they're stepping up, getting big hits. O'Hearn doing what he's doing. Frazier's doing a good job. All these guys they know their jobs, and once they do that, and once they're able to get the big hit, make the big play, and do these little things here and there, I mean, you got a winning team, and that's how that's how this stuff is done. And when everybody knows their job and they're able to go out and pick another guy up because he may have been used 2 or 3 times. When they can pick them up and do that, you got something there, and that's what the O's are doing right now. And it's really, it's exciting to watch. And again, as a fan, you see these guys stepping up and doing it. You just expect them to win, and if they don't, then you expect them to win the next day. Now, it's a long season. They're going to go through some. More than likely some down times. But again, like I said, I think people are starting to believe a little bit, but they're waiting for them to fall on their face. And I just don't, and everybody, that's natural, young team, but these guys are doing stuff that you don't expect them to do. They're coming back, they're winning games that being down, they're not giving up. And every time they win, every time they come back, it just puts more positivity in their minds. And that's what you've got, a really positive team that believes in themselves and believes in each other. And that's a big thing.
Luke, a couple curious things over the last 7, 8 days. The Santander experiment playing some first base, and the use of Joey Ortiz, bringing him back up. And now that Mateo has, I won't say he's hit the wall permanently, are they prepared that if Mateo goes south, they want to have somebody that's accustomed to playing a little Major League Baseball at short without moving Henderson off a third?
I think you hit on the most important point there, and that's to try to get Henderson going a little bit offensively. It's probably going to be useful to have him at one spot and just say defensively, you're going to focus on third base, and hopefully that helps him get the bat going. But I think you're absolutely right. I think they'll rotate Joey Ortiz in at short. I don't think they'll give up on Mateo permanently or anything, but I think this is a perfect opportunity to get another shortstop on the 40-man roster in Joey Ortiz, who you really like, who has hit the ball hard wherever he's been in the minor leagues, and is a very good defender as well. So it's not like you're losing much defensively going from Mateo to Ortiz. I think getting him in there right now is a perfect opportunity for that. And then the other thing was Santander at first.
Is that to get ready for Colton Cowser possibly being
I think
up here?
I think that's the thinking, to give them more flexibility once they get another young outfielder into the mix. I think that's exactly what they're thinking. Now, Santander hasn't played any first since Cowser went on the IL for Norfolk. He's got some quad tightness. So, and hopefully that's just a short-term thing. So we'll see where that goes. But I think that's absolutely right, that providing a little more flexibility there.
Ross, I want to ask you a question, and Luke, you feel free to jump in with questions. I don't need to moderate this. It's more a chit chat. But I do have a question about Cano. I know you've never been a general manager, but you've been around. You've been employed by general managers. I'm sort of not believing that the Cano pickup was just a fluke, that he got thrown in this deal last year for Jorge Lopez. I'm thinking that Mike Elias and Sig or somebody in their scouting department kind of knew this kid's story and said, let's ask for this guy in the deal.
Well, that's what happens when they make trades. I mean, you try to give another team somebody, and if you happen to be a receiving guy, you go, oh gosh, you're going to give us this guy. And again, that they may have seen something in him. Perfect. And another example is, you remember Jeff Nelson?
Yeah.
Jeff Nelson went to the Yankees. I had him. He was in Seattle, come from the Dodgers. He threw straight over the top, and he didn't win a game for 3 years. And one day he was throwing in the side. He dropped down. He threw a couple pitches, and that right there, it was all over. He moved on. So possibly somebody saw something. They moved him from here to there, and I guess they did it last year or during the winter or something. And now you got this guy doing what he's doing. So you got to have a little, foresight in what's going on and what can this guy do to maybe improve his command, his pitches. And somebody sees that and goes, let's do it. And whammo, there you go. It works. So as far as the throw in, a lot of times people we see something in this guy. He can help us here. He can help us there, wherever that may be, minor leagues, big leagues. And some guys take off, just by doing a small thing. And obviously this guy did it, bought into it, or figured it out himself. And now look what's going on.
Luke, I last year when they got him, and then in September when they brought him up, I looked at the numbers with the Twins, where I think he pitched 7 innings with a 9 ERA. And I did say throw in. He's really nothing. And his age also. But listening to Ryan Spielberg the other day on Glenn's show talk about this guy gave up baseball so he could leave Cuba. He lost a couple of years of his career.
Yeah, and the Baltimore Banner had a great story about Cano recently, and you mentioned that the Orioles probably had liked him in the past or whatever. The Orioles actually tried to sign him in 2019, and he ended up signing with the Twins. So they had known about Cano for quite a while. And sometimes that's how it works in baseball, right, Ross? That
Oh,
you
yeah, absolutely.
player, right away, but you might get them. It's almost like recruiting in college basketball or football, right? Where you might not get them as when they're a freshman, but you'll probably get them in the portal, that sort of thing. So
No, he had a good arm. That's the thing.
yeah, that's the whole gist of the story.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's been super fun to watch. And it's like Ross said, sometimes it's just a little tweak in arm slot. Sometimes it's just a little tweak in the pitches that your pitch usage. Sometimes it's a little and it's crazy what can happen with relievers because it's not right, Ross. It's not quite as complicated to figure it out for relievers because they're only doing 50, 30 pitches at a time. Whereas with a starter, there's a lot more going on and there's a lot more that has to go into it, right?
Yeah, it's less now than it used to be for starters because they don't have to pitch as many innings. They don't have to see a hitter as often. But
right.
Well, you get a pitcher with a good arm, and now all you got to do is find out what can we do to get this guy to throw the ball in the same spot a couple times in a row. We'll go. Do you shorten his stride? Does he stay? There's all kind of things you can do. But if you look and a trained eye can see this, and now with all the analytical data and video and stuff, you could say, you know what, this is what you're doing. And now look at this. This is what you do. And when you do this, this happens, which is a positive thing. When you do that, it's not so positive, So there's so much, so many little things that can happen. And once you click on it, and obviously he has, and look what's happened, he's been, just had a tremendous year so far.
Ross, I wanted to ask you, we had that little bump of about 10 days, 12 days with Bautista, where it seemed like he really got off his mechanics and he was leaving, everything was up high. But boy, when I look at the body of his work, as impressive as Cano is with a 0.30 earned run average and I think a whip of 0.36, I look at one number with Bautista, 23 innings, 45 strikeouts. That means that 2 out of every 3 batters he's retiring, he's striking out. And he is really tough to square the ball up on, the bat up on.
Don't let him get ahead of you.
Yeah.
Because he gets ahead of you and you're getting this thing. And the bottom falls out of it. And we can look in the past at all the relievers that had that thing or had a supposed trick pitch that they could put a guy away when they got ahead. That's the key for especially a reliever. Throwing strikes, throwing quality pitches, quality strikes, keeping the ball down the zone and then throwing that pitch up here, but throwing that thing, the thing.
Do you have a baseball with you? Do you have one handy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can you show our viewers just what a split, like the splitter is?
Everybody's got a different way to throw it, but it's more, I mean, you can do that. Some guys throw it where on the big seam here, you pull down with one finger and you get that spin like that. And I know you've seen that with different guys. The ball will come up and do that. It's like a Mike Cuellar screwball, but harder and with a shorter, quicker break. It's like a spinner, basically.
I'm old enough to remember Elroy Face with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it was called back in those days a forkball.
He had it where you actually split. His fingers were he would jam that ball in there, and it would split them. And his fingers were just really jammed in here like that. And the ball comes out and it tumbles.
And then it just drops.
And it just goes straight down.
It looks like it's a fastball coming to you.
Yeah, well, yeah. And what you see is the spin. And if it looks like a strike, you don't swing at it. If it balls up a little bit, take a swing at it. But recognizing it, and that's a whole nother story, but it doesn't have the fastball spin on it. It's got, it tumbles over like this. And the fastball's got that backspin on it like that. But yeah, it's but the split, there's several different ways to throw it, but basically it comes out hard as a fastball, not as hard, but that bottom falls out and it goes like this, or it will fade. They can throw them different ways and make them do a lot of stuff, but the most effective one comes up and goes down.
Hey, Luke, my power rankings came out today. You can look for them at pressboxonline.com and then click on the columns, and it's my lead column. I've got 4 teams. It shocked me. Last week I had Toronto 2, and now I've got 4 teams in the American League East in the top 8, and Toronto's not one of them after going 1-6 this week. This division is really quite a gauntlet to get through.
Oh yeah, it's really unforgiving, and it could be that the Jays have a really nice week this coming week. They've been in a rut with runners in scoring position. They went something like 6 for 50 something over their past 3 or 4 games with runners in scoring position, and so that's pretty fluky. And they will. And credit to the Orioles, credit to the Yankees for making it happen, but. They have the lineup that suggests that they should score more runs than they have at this point this year. So I would expect them to bounce back offensively in the coming weeks. Just scrolling through your power rankings, anything that jumps out to me, of course, you mentioned the AL East, your top 3 teams, Rays, Orioles, Yankees, all in the AL East, and your number 2 and 3 teams face off this week in what should be a very exciting series. Up in the Bronx, of course, the Yankees took 2 or 3 down here. I think it was the 3rd series of the year.
And I got the 4 and 5 teams are facing off with one another in the National League, the Dodgers and Atlanta.
Yep. And then the Red Sox at 8. And again, Red Sox, one of the best offensive clubs in the league. So there are no easy spots in the AL East, that's for sure.
You know, I watched the Blue Jays this weekend, and the thing that struck me about Manoah looks like he's 30 pounds heavier than he was last year. And I'll tell you what, I applauded Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for getting in shape last year. He's back being what he was, and that's never a good thing when you see weight on ball players. Ross, you've been around a long time.
Oh yeah,
from season to season. I know Jim Palmer, he used to like to come into camp 5 pounds lighter than he was the year before. You know, and that's probably one of the reasons he had the longevity he had. Weight is not a friend of a player.
No, you see, I mean, that there are guys that are heavy that are always fighting, keeping that weight off, and that takes away from, some of your baseball stuff. When you worry about your weight all the time, and that you're seeing it with a lot of guys, not a lot of guys, but some guys that has problems doing that, or keeping the weight off or gaining weight. It becomes a problem, and they spend a lot of time working on that and less time working on trying to be a better player. So yeah, it can be a problem.
All right, got a 3-game series starts tomorrow night in the Bronx. Bradish versus Garrett Cole. Wells versus Nestor Cortez, and Kyle Gibson versus Clark Schmidt. Then the Orioles come home Friday, Saturday, and Sunday versus the Texas Rangers. Gray versus Rodriguez, Heaney versus Kramer. That's a Saturday 4:05 start. And then Dunning versus Bradish. And that's what the Orioles have.
And for me, I think the Rangers have been the best offensive club in baseball. They've been bludgeoning teams.
Yeah, the Rangers have been absolutely phenomenal. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of our Monday Night Talk Around. We thank Andy Dolich and urge you to check into his book. It's called Goodbye Oakland. He co-wrote it with Dave Newhouse about the situation that's been brewing in the city of Oakland for a long time. It's entitled Goodbye Oakland. We thank our friends at AJ Michaels and Sons, and we thank always the Costas Inn for sponsoring these talks. I'll be back Thursday night with Gary Stein, and our guest is going to be Rocco DeSagna, the new broadcaster on Fox 45. He's sort of taken Bruce Cunningham's job when Bruce retired, but Morgan Adset is their number 1 guy. Rocco, young guy, enthusiastic. We'll talk to him about his first Preakness that he attended on Saturday. For Luke Jackson, Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan, and we'll see you down the road pretty soon. Night, everybody.